Timothy Taylor, Knowle Spring, refreshing blonde ale.
Life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. We have yet another one from Timothy Taylor today, this evening I should say. It's their Knowle Spring Refreshing Blonde Ale. Now the Knowle Spring is where Timothy Taylor get all their water from. And if you look at the ingredients, and I do like this about the Timothy Taylor website, it gives you a lot of detail about what's in the beer, and I like that because I want to know what's in my beer. And this contains water like all their other beers from the Knowle Spring. I don't know why they've named this beer after their spring, but they have, and they're calling it a refreshing blonde ale. To you and me, that's probably a golden ale. Not a fan of golden ale, to be honest, and there's a reason I'm not a fan of golden ale. And this is a typical example, I have to say, because it contains the Great Satan Cascade hops, and I don't like Cascade hops. And there's a reason I don't like Cascade hops, and that reason is because there's a lot of grapefruit profile on that hop that I'm not a fan of grapefruit. I just don't believe it has a place in beer. If it does, then it has to be very, very subtle. If it's just too overpowering, then, in the words of Duncan Ballantyne, a moot. But I'm hoping it's not going to be that bad. Now, I really like this brewery. Their landlord and their bulk maker ales are absolutely fantastic. I would go as far as to say as bulk maker is probably one of the best bitters you can try. Certainly, if you want to try a typical English bitter of very, very high quality, if not the best, then I would say go for bulk maker. It's a superb bitter. I really do like it. And the Timothy Taylor landlord, well, that's their flagship beer, and it's okay in the bottles, don't get me wrong, I really like it in the bottles, but if you get a really good, well kept pint on cask, it's something else. It really is. And the ABV is quite nice, quite sessionable. And there's a pub not too far away from me in a place called Maidstone, and they have that usually all the time. There have been times when I've not been able to get it from there, and the only other alternative is Guinness if you're into ale, and yeah, that's a real shame when they haven't got it on, but when they do, they keep it really well as well, and it's quite reasonably priced, so I always make a point of having a pint of landlord. Love it, great stuff. And I like this brewery. I like what they do. They're a traditional English brewer, but they are branching out, trying to do some of the American styles. I'm not really going to say much about that on this video, but when I do have some of them beers that they've brewed, and I will review them in the coming days, and I'll let you know what I think. Timothy Taylor, as you may or may not know, very old brewer, been around since 1858, and they are from the People's Republic of fucking Yorkshire, Keighley, no less. And they, as I say, they've been going around since 1858, doing really good ales. However, I did try the Havercake ale that they recently brewed, and I have to say, I wasn't impressed. It was very, very bitter, and I think there was a seam of grapefruit on there, and I'm wondering whether this is going to be not a carbon copy, but very similar to it. And I'm not sure. There's a couple of other alarm bells in this beer that I'm going to go on to in the next section. Never had this one before. Never really seen it about. Certainly not in a bottle. You won't get that in a bottle down here. Never seen it down here. I've had to buy this online direct from Timothy Taylor. As I say in the last video, British brewers are really struggling now, so let's do all we can to support them. And that's why I'm buying beer direct from the brewery, or you know, if you go to their pubs, you're supporting them as well. I was in a Fuller's pub on Friday, went to see Echo and the Bunnymen, and that wasn't my choice. So before you all start fucking judging, bollocks. I wouldn't say hoodwinked into going to it, but me missus and her mate was supposed to go, and her missus unfortunately was really unwell, and I had to go and fill that place. And the good part about it was I got to go to the parcel yard in King's Cross. They had ESB. They had quite a few good bottled beers as well. The Golden Pride they had, and they also had London Porter and 1845. And I have to say, I came out of there well oiled. I was having a little sip of the old Jaeger as well. And yeah, there were words exchanged at the gig. I told a few people how shit Echo and the Bunnymen were, and they wasted their money and all that. But I'm telling the truth. And if people can't handle the truth, well, not my problem. That's the last you want to hear though, isn't it? For a little fucking midget with a beard. Drunken midget with a beard. Anyway, I'm rambling. Let's get on to the next section. Let's see what's in this beer. Right, 500ml bottle, 4.2%. Nice sessionable ABV if you are that way inclined. The hops that are in here are quite interesting. But first, of course, it's got Knowle spring water in it, and that's unique to the Timothy Taylor Brewery, and that's why that beer is called Knowle Spring. The hops that are in here are interesting because they've got a French hop in there. Now, before I start going into a rant, it's France gin, but not as we know it. It's from a place called Alsace, which, if you know that region, you know that Strasbourg is not the capital, but it's the main city there. And if it sounds German, well, it was German up until the Second World War, I think. Well, it's gone backwards and forwards. First World War, I should say. During the Franco-Prussian War, it was taken from France and it remained in German hands up until the end of the First World War, and the Treaty of Versailles basically chopped Germany up. So they lost that part of France, they lost parts of the Czech Republic, they lost parts of Poland, or Danzig, or East Prussia as it was called back then. And yeah, this particular part, Alsace, it was given back to the French. So technically this is a French hop. However, Stresselspalt is the name, and there's quite a lot of speculation that this is related to the original Spalt hop, or the Hersbrucker hop, which of course are traditional German hops. This Stresselspalt, fucking hell, that is definitely a fucking tongue twister if you've had a few. Stresselspalt hop, apparently it's on the decline. There's not much call for it, and it's relatively hard to grow. But Timothy Taylor seemed to have embraced this, and they've taken it on into this beer, which I think is a good thing, because when hops go out of fashion, again, that's a shame. But the characteristics of that are their herbal notes, their floral notes, spicy and citrusy. So yeah, quite good all-round hops. On paper it sounds quite reasonable. Then you've got UK grown minstrel hops, which have a tendency to be quite spicy. Again, they have like a berry type flavour, so you can imagine forest fruits. They have that kind of subtle tone to it as well, and they've got orange citrus on there as well. Now, I mentioned Cascade before. Cascade, in case you didn't know, it contains flavours of grapefruit. It's got some floral notes on it, and it's also got light cheese as well. Some people have said that they get light cheese from Cascade hops. To be honest, I don't really get that. The biggest flavour I think you get from that is grapefruit. And the last hop they've put in this is Chinook, which is an American style hop, used a hell of a lot in American pale ales, American IPAs, etc. And that's the notes on that are pine and spice. So as you can see from that hop profile, this has got kind of an American feel to it. And as you may or may not know, I'm not a massive fan of American style beers. You know, that whole fruit cocktail, I've said it in loads of videos, but it ain't really my thing. So I wouldn't say I'm doing it under duress, but I've looked at the flavour profile on it, and I'm thinking, okay, fair enough. I know what I'm getting into here, so let's just go with it. The malt that's in here is Golden Promise malt. Now, I mentioned Golden Promise when I reviewed the Havercake Ale, and again, this is what I think I'm going to be getting, because Timothy Taylor made a big thing about there being a nice malty balance on Havercake. Yeah, it was quite strong in the hop department, and this looks even stronger. But Golden Promise malt has supposedly, it's been developed in the 1960s. That's when it was first done, but it's designed to go with very robust hops, and with all these hops that have gone in here and the robust flavours that they've got, I imagine they've put that in there to try and counterbalance that. But it is a good malt on its own. It's got a tendency to be quite full-bodied. It will give beer a nice body to it, but it's got a very, very malty flavour indeed to sort of counteract them really robust hop notes that are in this beer and other beers with that American style profile. There is also oats in this as well, and it's something that Timothy Taylor did in Havercake, which again is making me think, is this a variation on that recipe? It's also got some invert sugar in here, maybe to counteract the bitterness from them hops, because the IBUs on this are 38. Now, in the grand scheme of things, an IBU of 38 is very, very bitter. IBUs have to be taken into the context of the beer style. Now, if you're having a West Coast IPA and it's around 38 or 35 to 45, that's about right, because you expect really big, bitter hop notes. In an English ale or an English golden ale, IBUs of 38, it does sound bitter on paper, but we'll have to see when we get this open. The strain of yeast that they've got in this is known as the Timothy Taylor's Taste strain of yeast. Very original name, Taste strain. Okay, fair enough. Anyway, a viewer the other day moaned that it took me nearly 11 or 12 minutes to get into actually opening the beer. Have I broken that record? I don't know. I haven't got a clock going. As I always say, if you don't want to hear me talking, just forward on. And if you don't want to forward on, then don't watch. There you go. I don't mean that horribly, but some people moan that I take too long and I waffle a lot, which I do. But I don't care. My channel, my rules. Let's get on to the next section. Right, let's get this open. Stop gassing and get it open. Right. Here's the cap. Now, the Havercake had a plain cap. This has got a design on it. It looks like a bushel of wheat. They put on there. It is ye olde glass. As you can see, that is very golden. Yes, very golden indeed. Slight haze to it as well. Aroma. Well, for all of that flavour profile that I've just described, there isn't much of an aroma. I'm getting vague grapefruit on there. Oh, and yeah, grapefruit and floral notes. No real malt. No real sweetness. Not sure about this. Very, very subdued aroma on there. And I haven't got a blocked nose, but okay. Well, as I always say, the proof is in the tasting. So let's shut up. Let's get this down my fat Gregory Peck. Cheers and bottoms up. Oh, this isn't too bad actually. Oh, and now there's something I wasn't getting on the Havercake. Quite a malty finish on there. That Golden Promise, they really didn't shy away from the promise that they made about this malt counteracting the big hop flavours in here. So there is some grapefruit on there. There's no denying that. There's a bitterness to it. Quite a nice biscuity malt notes that you get on the finish on there. There is a slight, and I will say slight, I think diacetyl, which I do find in a lot of these golden ales, and in some cases it actually enhances the ale. Now, diacetyl is an off flavour. If you get diacetyl in lager, forget it, chuck it down the sink. But a little touch, well, I'll make an exception for Pilsner. Czech Pilsners, that is a little bit of a characteristic too, diacetyl. But if you get a little touch of diacetyl in some ales, not all, in some, I wouldn't say it enhances it, but it doesn't feel like an off flavour. Finish is quite nice actually. You do get some hot bitterness on the finish, which is nice. It's like quite a spicy bitterness, almost Pilsner-esque, like a Sartz Pilsner type finish. But there's a seam of grapefruit there, which says it's not a Pilsner, and you do get some quite nice biscuit malt on that. I have to say this isn't bad at all. I've had real doubts about this, but it isn't too bad. Body is full on it. Very full, in fact. There's a definite hint of what I perceive to be diacetyl, and it's okay actually. It doesn't detract from the flavour. Now, diacetyl, as I say, if you get it, I'm trying to describe the flavour of it to you. It's more like a sweet corn type flavour and aroma. Then that's kind of, you're in the sort of area. But I have to say it's very subtle on here, but it does go. It's actually quite balanced, and if nothing else, it is refreshing, as the name would suggest. I'm quite liking it. It's not a bad golden ale, and as I say, golden ale is a bit hit and miss. There are some terrible golden ales out there. Any Marston's golden ale, fucking avoid, because their beer's shit at the best of time. And when you just go into the golden ale territory, golden ale was, I think, in my opinion, there's no official history to it, but I think it was designed to try and counteract the popularity of lager. And for me, the best golden ale that I've tried is the Fuller's Honeydew Golden Ale, which has got honey infusions in it, Brazilian organic honey, would you believe? And it's very nice indeed. It's one of my favourite golden ales, if not my favourite. But I have to say, this isn't too bad at all. Now, there is sugar in this, and I'm wondering what invert sugar is doing in a golden ale, but it's there. They say so on their ingredients, and I'm not really getting that 38 IBUs. 38 IBUs is like a really, really spicy Pilsner, a very I wouldn't say overly hops, but a very hoppy Pilsner. And when I say hops, I mean Sartz hops, not your American style bollocks that some people put in their Pilsners. Don't get me started on that. That fucking winds me up. But this is like a lot of spice on there, but I think the sugar may be in there to try and counteract that, because all them hops that I've just reeled off, they do have quite a spicy profile. But I have to say, this is quite balanced. There's not too much of that grapefruit profile, which was really worrying me. Yes, there is a bitterness to it, but it's a spicy bitterness. It's not that grapefruit bitterness, which it just leaves me cold when I have a beer with it in there. There's not really much of the zesty orange that all them hops claim to have. Not really getting a zesty orange flavour from that at all. It's more spicy, black pepper spice, Sart's hop type spice on there. A little undercurrent of grapefruit, which is not big at all. A little hint of diacetyl on there, which isn't bad. Quite a big malty profile on this from that Golden Promise malt. And to be honest, this is what I was kind of expecting from the Havercake. And that was all spice and grapefruit bitterness, and I didn't really like it. But I have to say, this is a good one. Yeah, no complaints. And that'll be Percy. I think he's heard me when I said this is a good one. Percy, come here. No, he's not interested at all. Percy's the pug, by the way, the channel mascot. I like this. This is good, and I'm not going to turn my nose up at it if I see it again. So, what's the verdict on Timothy Taylor's Knowle Spring Refreshing Blonde Ale? Well, I had real reservations about this, but I have to say that is not a bad attempt at a golden ale, and they've just found another golden ale fan in me, because golden ale is never my go-to unless it's full as honeydew. But this is quite nice. Very hard to get hold of down here. I had to get this direct from the brewery, but if I see it on cask, I'm definitely going to have some. If it's in bottles in any supermarket down here, I've not seen it, but if it is, I'm having some. And yeah, I would definitely recommend that. The mark I would give that is, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. It's that good. Now, as I say, golden ale is not my style, but all things considered, they've really got that right. Nice balance of everything in there, and the malt is really nice too. That malty finish is really good. And yeah, I've got no complaints with that whatsoever. That for me is an 8 out of 10 all day long. Now, if you live up north, I'm sure you're going to be inundated with this stuff in the pubs, but down here, in the south, you may struggle to find it. If you're going to put in an order with Timothy Taylor, and if you can afford it, please do, because they're a good brewery, and all breweries, British breweries, need all the help they can get at the moment. Get some of this. You won't be disappointed. It is quite nice, actually. I imagine this would be good in the summer as well. You know, if you're not a lager fan and you want a lighter beer, then yeah, this is a good alternative. I think 8 out of 10 is a fair mark, and yeah, see if you can find it. Recommended. And remember, beer is working class champagne.